where you are the first time somebody's hiring a designer?
Off
Yeah.
very often. Yeah.
So I'm sure they've got some fear and unknowns. So you've got to navigate through all of that. What's that like for you? All right. So today I am joined with Leslie Anderson, and she is one of the 2024 Home Staging Industry Award winners. Unfortunately, we didn't get to celebrate with Leslie in Vegas this year because I heard you were on a fabulous trip.
I was.
Where
Yes.
were you?
My husband and I finally got to go away. We went to Greece
Okay.
for 2 weeks and it was amazing. Yeah, we both have big birthdays this year, so we decided it was time.
Yeah. Is it your first time traveling to Greece?
Yes, I've never been there.
Ooh, 2 weeks is
So
a good amount of time.
it's so true. I mean, I know now what I would do differently. That would go at a different time of the year because it was
Mm.
pretty crowded, but other than that, it's a beautiful part of the country.
So, on the topic of Greece, was there anything there that inspired some future design styles for you? Maybe not for staging, but interior design?
Yeah, it's funny because I was looking a lot for photos that I could take and just different things. And I feel like the beauty in Greece is really the landscape and just the architecture. So, but what is interesting about that is it's very simple. And I feel like that's how we do our design. It's very simple, add a pop of color, and it's a timeless look.
Let the
And
architecture speak for itself. Let it
yeah,
shine. Yeah.
exactly. Let the furniture speak for itself. So it's just, I feel like look at how long Greece has been around and it still looks great. So, that,
It's been a
so,
while.
hmm yeah, so I
Yeah.
feel like that's a good strategy with design.
I know you've been a stager for many years. What made you jump into the design world? Because you actually won the best redesign project of the year this year, which is special. So, what made you get into design?
So honestly, every time we've gone into a home and we've staged it, I can't say every time, but a majority of the times that we go in, people are so impressed by how their home looks and had no idea that it could look that good. Um, they get to the point where they're like, well, now I want either to stay, which does
Mhm.
is never going to
It
happen,
happened.
or,
I'm sure
or
it occasionally happens.
yeah. So then they want us to come to their house and help them. They felt so good about how we made their house look that now they're like, well, I want you to come to my new house and help me make it, this happen every day. So we got so many of those requests that we started to just dabble a little bit in a room or two. But honestly, because we go to High Point Market twice a year and we shop for our staging inventory because it's so important to me to have an upscale inventory,
Mhm.
accessories, artwork. So we're there. So we're able to shop for clients now and give them the on-trend furniture and ideas and things like that because we're there. So it's really that my business is really evolved into um, you know, equal amounts of staging and design. So it's been
Mm.
really fun.
About how long ago did you start the design part of your business?
So probably, like I said, we kind of dabbled in it here and there. Um, probably 6 years ago.
Okay. So that's a
And
good amount of time.
yeah, yeah. So just a year ago, we went into a new showroom and now we have a full-fledged interior design studio. We have
What?
all kinds of samples. We have our own. So I started my own private label furniture line. Um,
Wow. That's
yeah,
a big deal.
it's grown a lot. So it's
You're gonna
been
have
really
to
fun.
send me some photos of the showroom so I could pop them in this video. I had no idea
Yeah.
that you had made that leap and started a beautiful showroom and your own white labeled line. That's really cool. So, where is it that you're sourcing your white label line from? Are you getting it from overseas?
No, nope,
Oh,
it's
okay. Because I know we did
straight.
a recon session about that a couple of years ago, that there was some stagers doing that. So very cool.
Yeah,
If,
no, it's straight from North Carolina. So
wow.
all local. Yep, very close to me. So that's good.
Very good. So, Leslie, let's get into your backstory before staging. I understand that you grew up in a very large family. You're one of seven kids, am I right?
Yep, that's
Wow.
true.
And how many boys and girls?
So there were 5 girls and 2 boys. So,
Oh boy, that must have been fun for those boys.
well, it's interesting. My oldest brother was the second born, and my youngest brother was the youngest. So they weren't really tight, but
Mhm.
I just know my oldest brother kept waiting, for another boy to come, and it just never came. And then by the
So,
time it did, he was like, whatever.
do you feel like growing up with that many children has helped shape who you are as a business owner and how you handle employees and clients? Do you think that that background has helped you?
So it's been interesting. It's definitely molded me. Anybody who knows me knows that I am competitive. And that's for a reason. I mean, we had to compete for clothing and for food and we had, a 3-on-3 basketball team in our driveway all the time. So we were constantly competing, and I feel like that's just kind of how my personality has been formed because I like to compete. So if start something, then I'm going to give it my best shot. So whatever it is, I'm going to dive into. I'm going to really go hard. Because I like to do the best that I can. So
And
I challenge myself.
that's important in business for sure.
Yeah.
Being competitive, even if you don't want to think about, the other business owners in your area as competition, because at RISA we like to say, that everybody can work together and not to feel competitive, but I mean at the end of the day you still want to win the bid, right? You still want to win the best of awards,
Yes.
but you
Yes.
still be
100%.
friendly. Just
Yes. And
totally.
we don't, and that side of it isn't really what I'm talking about because we all help each other out.
Hmm.
We don't run into each other all the time. I mean, we don't, but more so from my standpoint is like, how many new jobs can I get? How
Mm.
many, what am
So
I
you're
challenging
competing against
myself?
yourself. I
Correct.
I love that. So that must mean you're really big on goals.
In here. They're
It
all in here. Yes.
okay. So you don't do like once a year go through and set a goal and check in and do all of that.
No.
It's more of an internal competition for you.
Yes and no. I mean, I talk frequently with my accountants and advisors, and so it's mostly a financial
Mhm.
situation where I need to get a percentage more this year, get a percentage more. How am I going to do that? So that's what's in my head. Like, all right, I need to get 3 more staging jobs a month, or I need to hire somebody, and then this. So it's constantly working those numbers to figure out how I'm going to get there at the end of the year.
So, speaking of numbers, I understand that you have started your business way back when with only $5,000 that you took out of your savings, and
Hmm.
you've never taken out a loan.
Mm-mm.
It's pretty impressive.
No, I use credit
Mhm.
and I pay it off most every month, but I hate debt. I really do. And one of the things I promised my husband, if I was going to do this, and this is kind of that competitive side again, because he had doubt that I
Yep.
was going to run it down the drain. And so I was like, no, I'm not. I'm going to do this and it'll be fine. So, um, so that's just another challenge that I put on myself. And I have figured out ways, or um, I have found different things that I need to do to keep revenue coming. So that was one of the reasons also of getting into design,
Hmm.
because design helps when staging's slow. Um,
Definitely.
yeah, so you kind of having both sides of those business really helps in downtimes.
So do you stage occupied and vacant listings, or are you primarily focused on the vacant market?
Just vacant now.
Okay.
We used to do occupied, but honestly, my stagers begged me to stop doing it
Yeah, it's a
because
lot more work.
it's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to match your furniture with other people's furniture and
Mhm.
make it look good.
Totally.
So
When you
we just
first
decided,
started out, though, I assume you didn't jump right into luxury because there's a lot more of an investment involved in purchasing all of the
correct,
furniture. Okay. So did you
correct.
start off
Yeah,
with like consultations? Was that a part of your business model in the beginning?
always.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're still doing
consultations
them.
are always. Yeah. I mean, that's just easy.
Mhm.
Um, they they take a lot of time and they are tiring. I'll tell you, to talk for 2 hours is
Mhm.
hard, and constantly thinking about how you're going to help these people without hurting their feelings.
Right.
Um, but no, consultations are always a part. All this, we did occupied stagings for probably 4 or 5 years. But mostly they were vacant stagings. We do a lot of rehab, working with
Mm,
builders. So if people, builders are renovating, right now we're making a builder push to just get in, and the thing that I love about that part of the business is I get to know the builder's style.
mm.
And so when I'm at market, if I
You
know
could
that
look
they're
for
my
things.
client, then I can buy to their style.
I love
So
that.
it's great.
So the redesign project that you won the best of for this year, I
Mhm.
understand that originally it was a dining room, but that's definitely not what you turned it into. So why don't you tell
Mm.
me the story behind the client and how you got in contact with them, what they were looking for, and that particular room that you staged? Let's hear about it.
Okay. So
Mhm.
this was fun. This is, and again, I didn't know these people. They found me on the
Mm,
internet. So really important to have your website up to date and all that information so people can actually find you. Um, they contacted me. We went out and, they were very skeptical about spending money on anything, which is very true of design. It's really hard.
mhm,
People feel like they can get something for nothing, but yet they want this amazing look. And so the consultation is a big part of our process to really get as much information as we can about how they live. Who are their kids? Are the kids
mhm.
having friends over? How do you spend your time in your home? And so we had that consultation. We learned a lot about them, and we found out that, we have this amazing dining room at the front of our house, but we use it twice a year. So we feel
Right?
like it's kind of, yeah, a waste. And they're like, and then kind of, we have these light fixtures in our house that the builder put in, but we don't really love them. And so we started with baby steps, talking about different ways that we could make some transitions. And we said, well, what about like a really fun sitting room up in front where, if the guys are in the family room watching a
Mm,
football game, maybe the women can go in and have a glass of champagne or just have your alone time. Or, maybe you just want to take one of your kids in and sit after school and just chat. So that idea really resonated with them. And and that's kind of how our juices got flowing, and we just made it, a really nice, comfortable room for multiple purposes. Um,
was
and
this
then
the
we
first
just
time they had worked with a designer?
it is. Mhm.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So often are you in that, circumstance where you are the first time somebody is hiring a designer?
Off
Yeah.
very often. Yeah.
So I'm sure they've got some fear and unknowns, so you've gotta navigate through all of that. What's that like for you?
You do. I mean, that's one of the first parts to our process is what we call a free discovery call. And in that call, we sit and we ask them some of the same things that I was telling you, like how do you use your house and all of that. But
Mhm,
we also find out if they've ever worked with anybody, because the design fees to design a home, I mean,
mhm.
this is a specialty. This is a service that we provide. So it's not just, the cost of the furniture. This is our
Exactly.
service, and it's expensive. I mean, it really is, because when we dive into a design, we put so much time into it and we want to make it really special for them. Because if you think about it, people probably change their furniture once every 20 years.
Yeah, if
So
that.
when yeah. So you think about, okay, the cost of this design is going to keep, last for
Mhm.
you 20 years. So really, it's not a huge investment.
When you
And
think about it that way, for sure.
yeah.
And you're
So
getting something that you're absolutely going to love, and then you're probably less likely to go out and buy a bunch of stuff that doesn't work for your lifestyle or your space.
it's so true. I mean,
Yeah.
so many people make mistakes when they go
Mhm.
out on their own and buy furniture, and
Oh,
they
yeah.
still try to do it when we
Mhm.
are hired by them. They still try and say, "Oh, I found this." Actually, this client, after they had hired us, they said, "Oh, we just got this from our house and we really love this dining table." And I'm like, "Don't do it." Like, no, do you not
Mm-mm.
like I know that furniture and it's not for you. So, again, they would have done that. They would have made another mistake and then
Yeah.
they'd be calling me again.
So you mentioned that it takes a lot of time. How long did this project how long were you working on it from the first time you talked to them until the finished look was revealed?
They're actually pretty good for design clients. Some of them can take a very long time to
Mm,
make decisions. And for that reason, we have structured our design fee up front so that
smart.
they're committed and, we're not waiting until they finish making up their mind to get paid. So they were pretty good. It was really just getting the pieces here. I
Mhm.
mean, it was during the COVID time. So, most of the things came in on time. But, there's just a little bit of a waiting period. So this one was probably 3 or 4 months.
Oh, that's really not
Wasn't
that
too
bad.
bad. Yeah.
So how many design clients are you able to take on in a year if a project typically takes a couple of months?
We probably do we probably do about 10
Oh,
projects a
okay.
year. Now, some of them are much larger than others.
Mhm.
So we're getting calls for the entire main level. And so that's a huge project for us and that will take, 6 months maybe.
Okay.
It,
And you also are doing short-term rentals now too, I saw on your websites.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to get into that. We did our first short-term rental. Oh my gosh, it was so fun. And this was one of those times where the investor was extremely nervous to spend any kind of money on furniture.
Mm,
And I said, you know what? We're gonna find something super durable, that's made for this type of situation. But I said, it's not gonna be about that. It's gonna be about the extras that we're gonna
mhm.
put into this rental that they're gonna see in those photos and they're gonna say, I wanna go to that house. Like that's the one I wanna rent because it has that fun game in it or it has, and so that's what we did. I have found that just for myself when I'm renting, I look for
Yeah,
certain things.
for sure.
And so, yeah, that
I
was the
love short-term rentals because it's kind of a mix of both worlds. You're marketing the property still, but then you're also getting to do those fun little elements that you probably couldn't get away with in staging. So,
exactly.
and probably even more than you could get away with in interior design. Some of
Mhm.
those like themed Airbnbs and short-term rentals. I mean, obviously you're never going to put stuff like that in someone's home. So your creativity could really go wild. Do you plan on doing more short-term rentals if you get the opportunity?
We are, yeah, I
Okay.
mean, we it's
Mhm.
always my next like, when staging slows down, then,
Yeah.
okay, that's next up on my list.
So are
Um,
you constantly marketing all of these different services, staging, design, and short-term rental? Because I know you have a background in marketing. That's what your degree is in.
mhm,
So I'm sure
yeah,
that's kind of top of your mind when you're thinking about all of these different services and how you can differentiate them.
mhm. It's funny when you talk about my background, I was the kid who wanted to play every sport. I was the parent who wanted to be involved in everything. So I have a hard time saying no to
Yeah.
anything, and that's a problem. So when you say yes, are we marketing everything? Yes. Probably not as diligently as I could be. So
Mhm.
staging and design are definitely first.
Okay.
And then, short-term rental, I want to make it a little more perfect before I really put anything out there. But yeah, so my juices are always flowing.
Isn't that exhausting?
Well, yes.
Sometimes I'm like, "Can you just stop?" I would like to know this thing called meditation and, like, how that actually works because I
I
can never
know.
get it to quiet.
I listen, I
It's a
know, and I
blessing and a
know you
curse.
because you're super creative and you
Mhm.
do these little side things, and
Yeah.
that's just how your brain works.
It's hard to turn it off. I mean, I love it, but at the same time, it can be, extra exhausting when you have a lot of things going on.
Mm, yes,
So on
yes.
the note of having a lot of things going on, a couple years ago, you decided to bring on some employees. How long were you working in your staging business before you made that decision, and why did you make the decision?
Yeah, well, because I was exhausted.
Right? Because your brain needed a break and your
Mentally and
body.
physically.
Yes.
Now I'm just mentally exhausted. Uh,
Well, hey, I could deal with that.
yeah. So, it's just when I started this, I was killing myself. I mean, I was scared, as you know.
Mhm,
I didn't want to take on that financial risk. I didn't want to take on debt. So I felt like I needed to just get it done by myself. And I quickly learned that I wasn't going to be able to to maintain that type of pace.
mhm.
And my husband didn't appreciate it because he was my
Right.
backup plan. So
So who's your unofficial employee for a while? We know how that
he
goes.
was right. And
Yes.
sometimes my son, and he didn't like that either.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I just decided, you know what, let's try it. And so I hired two people,
Wow,
literally
2 off the bat? You
two. Yeah,
really
because
jump in when you jump in, Leslie.
yeah, no, I needed to. I just needed help. And unfortunately, it was right before COVID. So as soon as I hired them, I had to say, you know what, we'll regroup in a little bit.
Mhm,
So we did, and then there's always turnover in staging.
mhm.
Um, People think that it's easy work, and as you know,
Yeah,
it's not.
no.
Um, so there is turnover, and we all experience it. So over the 4 years that I've had employees, we've had at least two stagers. Right now, I just hired three stagers, and I have one or two design assistants on a regular basis.
Oh,
So
okay. So then
we
do you do
rotate.
outside movers? Is that how you're
Yes,
handling the moving?
yes,
Okay.
yep.
Well, that's
I
good.
I didn't want to bring it in yet. I don't want that expense. I guess.
Yeah, and one more thing to manage, movers are a different breed.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And are your employees full-time?
So I have one full-time employee
Okay.
now, and the stagers are all part-time. And I do that because the business is cyclical. Like you just don't always have staging
Mhm.
business.
Yep.
So I don't feel it's financially smart to have somebody sitting here and getting paid for, something that you might not be able to back up. So
So on the note of being financially smart, how were you able to determine budget-wise that you were in a position in your business where it made sense financially to bring someone on? I'm sure that was terrifying.
it's super scary. I mean, it is, and I'm scared right now still.
Yeah. Will you
Because
ever not be scared?
yeah, I mean, it is, and
Yeah.
I think about that a lot. I think about, well, who's working this week and who's, and what can we take on? And because what happens is you think you're fine, and then like stagings get pushed back, and the house isn't ready, or this,
Mhm.
that, or the other. Even though, and then by that time, oh, we pre-sold it. Like there are always things that happen
Yep.
where you might not have that revenue coming in.
Mhm.
So then you think about, okay, I've already invested the employee hours,
Yep.
so I got to find that somewhere. So it's a constant balance. I kind of know where I do know where my comfort zone is.
Mhm.
So I schedule accordingly, and that's why I like to have more people on a part-time basis
Yeah.
because then I feel like I'm not burning them out.
That
If
makes
I only
sense.
had one, then it just wouldn't be great.
No, they would probably last like 3 months and then be done and you'd be at
Yeah,
it again.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because like you said, it's very difficult work. It's more than just making things look pretty.
It
That's a
yeah,
small part of it.
that's maybe 10%.
And so are you at a point where you feel comfortable letting your employees pick design choices for stages, or how do you manage that part of it?
So that's tough because they really can't do it until they get to know my inventory really well.
Mhm,
And since it's constantly evolving and changing, and I'm buying it, I'm
mhm.
the one who knows exactly what the
Your
inventory is.
vision. Yeah.
Yeah. So I still pick out the furniture, but I
Okay.
show them why and tell, I'm doing a lot. This is one thing that I have learned. I used to tell people when they come here to stage that they have to be self-sufficient and be a self-starter and
Mhm.
be able to jump in and roll. Now I'm doing a lot more training.
Now you realize that that may not be the
Yep.
best approach, especially with
No,
creatives.
exactly, because I'm
Yeah,
like,
systems.
oh, yeah, that doesn't go with my brand at all. Um,
Yeah.
so I have to be really careful because I have put all my time into this for
Mhm,
11 years now. And so I have to keep that same image. So I'm doing a lot of training. Um, I'm I'm explaining a lot more why I do what I do
mhm.
and how I do it and
Smart.
what colors wise, why I wouldn't select this or
Mm,
if somebody selected something, why I think something else might be a little bit better of a choice for this client.
yeah,
It might be a client thing, that's also
for
a big
sure.
part of it.
So I
So,
don't know if you've seen Linden Creek yet. They're based out of the Carolinas. Alyssa Sparks is the owner of that company, and she spoke at RisaCon this year. And I love she what she's doing is she creates like little bundles of accessories or art or whatever, so that they could just pick up and go. And during downtime, she'll that's when she lets them kind of play to create the bundles, and then she'll come through and edit them. I thought that was a nice way to give them a little bit of creative freedom, but then still have control or the final say.
yeah, it's interesting. We've tried things like that. Like I've
Hmm.
tried to package up bathrooms. I've tried to package up kitchens because we tend to do the same thing in kitchens.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, I mean, I get bored with it.
Hmm.
So I look at those photos and I'm like, I did that in all
Yeah.
5 of the ones before that.
Right.
So
So
I
that tells me you're not the stager that likes to wash, rinse, repeat, and you have the one
mm,
look that fits in every single house.
no.
You are a fan of curating your stages,
I
right?
love to be creative. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I want them to be creative. Like I
Hmm.
feel like that's what keeps them energized.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's why they picked your company to apply to. Otherwise, they could have just,
It's
went
just a
and
job then.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, are there any financial decisions that you made in your business that you thought was a great idea, and then looking back at it now, you realize maybe was not? Or have
Yeah.
you done good with all of your financial decisions so far?
No.
No.
No. You quickly learn what travels well.
Mm,
So we have changed out a lot of accessories that are breakable. Artwork, I rarely buy things with glass anymore. Um, I've spent a lot of money on ways to protect pieces.
inventory. Yeah.
And I find out it's so tedious and time consuming. And for the one piece that may get scratched up, whatever, deal
Hmm.
with it, but put a blanket over it and get it on the truck.
So
Because
I've
it's
seen this question come up quite a bit recently with newer stagers who haven't made the leap into purchasing all of their own inventory, wondering how long they can expect their pieces to last. How long are you finding that your like basic furniture pieces versus like your accessories and your artwork can last throughout your inventory? Not because you want to replace them because you want something new, but
right.
because it needs to be retired and it isn't appropriate anymore.
Yeah, it's so funny because we're going through that right now.
Mm,
Um, we're just, my stagers when I'm not here and they don't have work to do, they'll start sifting through the stuff that they think needs to go.
okay.
They'll set it on the ground and there's nothing that makes me more crazy because I'm like, hey, no, that costs money
Yeah,
and we'll use
that's
it.
still good.
So I'm like my grandmother, right?
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, like I don't want to get rid of anything. But there comes a time where if you've done, so this is one of the things that I'm having one of my girls do is tell me how many turns we've had on this.
Mm,
Tell me when the last use was, because if you're not on stage force and you don't have that information at your fingertips,
yep.
then, it's so easy to say, okay, Leslie, here's a list of all these sofas that you have not used in 3 years. Okay, out. They're out.
Yeah.
Why
What
are
are
we?
they doing? Why are
um,
we letting them take up space in our warehouse that we have to pay money on?
It's a
Yeah.
hundred, one of the most shocking, not shocking, but yet it is statistics that I saw on Stage Force was that recently that 30% of my inventory was being used and 67% was still in the warehouse. And when I think about what's back
It's a
there,
lot.
I think about I don't have anything back there to choose from. So if I've got 60% of
You
my
sound like me
inventory
in
that
my
I can't
closet.
choose, that's a problem.
Yes. So do you have a warehouse sale or what do you do with the
Yeah.
inventory?
Yeah. So in our new space, we have more inside storage space for like
Mm,
pillows, accessories, artwork, and then the back, all the furniture's in the back. So yeah. But we
smart, smart.
also, with design, we also needed more space in our warehouse to bring in product. So
Okay.
as our projects, we're getting a full house full of furniture. I've got to
Mm-hmm.
store it until we get it all ready to go. So that takes up a lot of
You need
space
space.
also because I can't move it around.
And the same if you're doing short-term rentals.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that you're buying your inventory for the design wholesale. Do you
Correct.
pass on your discounts? I know this is a
Um,
controversial topic.
it's not really. I mean, if you're smart, you don't.
All right, good for you.
You can't, technically you can't
Yeah, you're not
because the
supposed to.
vendors, yeah,
Yeah,
they tell you if they find
yeah,
out that you're selling it at wholesale cost,
yeah.
then, they're not going to work with you anymore.
Yeah, and I mean,
Um,
that's one of the reasons why you could you could charge what you charge is because you do have access to those resources. You've invested in the business license, in the wholesale license, and the resale license. So, yeah, don't
yeah,
give that away.
no, some people say it might be double dipping, but you know what? Here's the way I look at it. This is a service I provide. So
Yep,
my design fee is my service, my time, my employees, my overhead, all of that. And then the product is what we sell.
yeah,
It's like a retail business. So, it's I can't imagine passing on the entire, and not taking a profit on that
seems
furniture.
silly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Plus all the time that it took for you to make the purchases, like in your case, you're having to store them.
right.
I hope the people that are passing on those discounts are considering all of that. But I think sometimes people are just so eager to say, I'll take it. I need the job. I want the job. I'm creative. I want to do something with my passion. I don't care if I'm getting paid my worth. Did you ever have a time in your career where you were taking jobs because you just wanted to do it, you enjoyed it? Or were you from the very beginning like, I am not going to pull my truck out of here unless all of my costs are covered?
You know, I, I can see in certain times when it's slow
Hmm.
to take that on, but you realize really quickly that you will never recover from that
Hmm.
because now you've set the bar so low that the next time it's easier to say yes and yes and yes. And then, you're closing your door because
Yeah.
at some point you just aren't making any money. Um, when I was working for myself, when I
Mm.
didn't have employees, I would think about, the amount of money that I was getting for it, and I was like, I think I'm making 10 cents an hour at this point, you know?
Yeah.
So you realize that you do have to get paid your worth. And,
Yes.
until you break your back and realize, you know what? this isn't worth it for me, so I deserve more than this. And,
Mhm.
we're making this seller all this money. And so we are a big part of that process. We should be able to recoup from that.
I agree, especially when you think about the cost of what it would take for them just to, like, move their furniture in and out, and you're doing that twice, and the
Mhm.
designing, and you're providing with them with all of the furniture. It's sad to me sometimes when I see these stagers who are taking these jobs where they're not making anything, and to your point, you might not realize it when you're on your own, and you might just take it because you haven't done the math and figured out you're working for 10 cents on the dollar. I know,
Yeah.
me and my husband also have a business outside of my full-time job with Risa. And a few years ago, he had to have that come to Jesus moment with me. He sat me down and he's like, I need you to think about what it would cost if you had to hire somebody to do this work. And I was like, well, I wouldn't be able to afford that. And he's like, so why are you okay taking less than what it would
Nothing.
cost to pay somebody minimum wage to do the work that you have been doing for the past like 25 years? You spent $100,000 on your education. Like, oh, because I love it. I just really like to do it and I would be doing it anyways. And then it's like, oh, well, yeah, you have to pay taxes. And the first year in business, honestly, I owed taxes. And it was like that was my come to Jesus moment with my husband and then owing taxes. I'm like, oh no, if
Mhm.
I have to owe the government money, I'm going to be charging appropriately then.
Yeah.
So I think that there's
Yeah.
just so many stagers that just haven't done the math yet to figure out what it really costs them to do their job. So for those people that are in that position, what would be your best advice for them to figure out their numbers?
Yeah, so I would just say, like what I said before, is you'll never recover, and it happens to us all the time. We get undercut by these stagers who are
Mm,
just starting out. And I let my clients take the chance on them. The thing is that the agents will realize and they'll know better. So if you go offer a service like that, you might be a one and done.
mm,
Because if it's not done properly, because how can you do it properly for zero money? You just
right.
can't. And if
Yeah.
and they're going to realize that, so you're not going to get the repeat business from that type of staging. So that's why I say don't ever put yourself in that situation. Be able to walk away unless they're paying you what you should be paid.
So, how are you dealing with the low price leaders in your area? I know it's something that a lot of staging companies, especially those that have been around for a while now, have been experiencing. Those that have the overhead, have the warehouses, have the employees. They're paying for insurance. They're doing everything legit. They're having a hard time, keeping up with business because so many people are coming in and charging like $1,000 for a full house.
Yeah. And I'm actually finding that some of the larger companies are doing it, which is really frustrating.
Mm.
So they went from charging to now undercutting. And,
Mm,
so I think it's a volume thing. So they feel like volume is a trade-off. Well, you can't just look at it that way, because the more volume they do, the more you're going to have to turn over your furniture, the more
yep,
that's going to get ruined, the more you're going to burn out your employees. I mean, it's just the more fuel costs. You can't just look at one thing without looking at how it affects your business as a whole.
yeah.
So again, knowing your numbers, knowing what you can handle and how it affects everything, that's what you have to really project each year, and
Mhm.
how you can sustain your business. But if you go in and just take business just to have business,
Yeah,
it really only means that you have nothing else to do and you don't need the money. And that
I
hurts
agree.
everybody else.
Yeah. It's not a good look. Kinda
No,
brings the whole industry down, to be
it does.
honest.
Yeah.
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 Do you have those hard conversations with your agents when they're calling you and they're like, "I've got this ridiculously low bid. Can you beat it? Can you match it?"
Yeah, I get that all
Yeah.
the time, especially from builders,
Mm,
because, if somebody gets in with the builder, they know that they've got 5 or 6 homes each year that they, are guaranteed to happen.
Yeah.
So they'll offer builders a free month, a free this, a free that. I hate the word free, honestly. I never used to do it in December when people say, "Oh, free this,"
Hmm.
why? Did you try before you
Right.
asked for, free?
Yeah.
Like, why are we just giving free things away? Um, so I see it with builders a lot. They would rather put something into their home than to
Hmm.
pay to have furniture put in there temporarily. So it's really tough. But at the same time, like, you have to consider it a model home. You
Mm.
are a part of their marketing,
Yep.
and they have that marketing budget. So I have gone into some builders and I'll tell them, if I'm gonna look at a home that's gonna cost multi-million dollars to build, and I'm seeing some of these photos that you're representing, I've seen bed skirts. I mean,
Hmm.
I can't tell you the last time I used a bed skirt. It was probably 11 years ago.
Yeah.
I've seen just stagings that just are just not up to par with the home.
Hmm.
And so I look at that and I tell them, this is what your buyer is seeing that's representing you.
Yeah.
And even though that's not the architecture, that's what the buyer's seeing.
Hmm.
So why not make it, like this fabulous photo that they just fall in love with, and then they get there and they see all the architecture and they see how beautiful it is. Like, that's what you need as
That's the
part of your
point.
marketing plan.
Yeah. So are you mostly getting new stagings from the agents, or are sellers calling you like in this last year? What would you say percentage
It's
wise?
it's really been both.
Okay.
A lot of Instagram. So I connect with a lot of builders on
Hmm.
Instagram. So they see my work, they contact me. Not well, builders or investors.
Yeah.
And I just or referrals.
Yeah.
A lot of our stuff comes from referrals, and we've really never had to do a lot of marketing.
That's
Now we
good.
are. I mean, we're just are because I feel like it's time.
Yeah.
But we get so much referral business with agents do a job with us, then they tell everybody in their office. So then we'll
Hmm.
get other calls. So yeah,
Would
it's
you
a
say
little,
Instagram is your primary method of marketing nowadays?
yeah,
Yeah, it seems
yeah,
like that's what it is for everybody. I mean, I know when I'm ready to consume something for the first time, whether it's when I moved out here to Reno, I had to find a new hairstylist. I had to find a new nail technician. I stalked their Instagram. I wasn't just
yeah.
looking at what they posted. I was looking to see what people tag them in, what their space look like, all of those things. I mean, it's just such an easy way to get to know who you might be doing business with. So are you running your own account or do you have somebody doing it for you?
So it's been this it's my nemesis, sort of. I
Yeah,
mean,
everybody's.
I can do it. I don't mind doing it. I just don't have time to.
Hmm.
So I have sourced it out to different people at different times. Right now, I've got one of my stagers working on it for
Smart.
me. So we're in a transition mode a little bit, but at least there's getting content out, and that's the most
Yeah.
important thing.
And you have such beautiful examples of your work. So, I mean, Instagram is the perfect place for you to be. You'll have no problem picking up business once you really get going over there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
your
hopefully.
website looks really good too. I don't know when you recently did it, but I looked at it last night and I was like, ooh, it's so pretty. And I especially love to see all of those RISA logos from all of the
Yeah, I know.
finalist
I have to.
awards that you've won.
Yeah, that's one thing I have to update on my website. I don't know how to do it. Another
I
thing I
think
don't know
you
how to
have
do.
like 14 awards or something like that. I went to look, I made notes last night about all of the different categories over the years because you've been entering since like 2018, I think was the furthest back that I saw. And almost every year you show up in the top 10. And I just love that you show that off proudly because these awards are voted by your peers blindly.
You know, I have been a big proponent of RISA for that reason, because I don't believe in just giving something out. Somebody you really have to have an anonymous type of system to, I think, be fairly represented.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
I will tell you, these awards, I am so proud of the ones most recently because the competition has just gotten so hard.
It's
And
fierce.
yeah, it
Like
is.
I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is amazing. Oh, hold on. Wait, what? What? They're
There are
good.
so many really good stagers. And, I mean, there are different markets, no doubt. So it's
Yeah.
hard to compare. But I look at it and it's funny because when I stage now, I look at it as if it's a photo that's going to win a RISA award. I'm like,
Love
nope, not good enough. Nope, not good enough. I got to make it better. I got to make it better. So again, going back to that competitively challenging myself,
that. Yeah.
and it's because of these awards that I do that. Otherwise, I might just walk away and say it's good enough.
So, speaking of walking away, do you have a plan for the next 5, 10 years of your business? Are you hoping to do this forever? Are you hoping to
No.
get to a point where you're going to have people who are running the business for you? Are you hoping to get to a point where you're going to sell it? What's your future look like? Because you've been at this
So
for a long time.
yeah, so we're in our 11th year. I just signed another lease a year ago, so I'm
Okay.
committed to 4 more years in this space. I'm looking at different ways of potentially exiting, not sure.
Yeah.
But my kids are all out of the house, so we do want to retire, somewhere. But I can't ever imagine myself not doing
Yeah.
something, as you can probably guess.
Yep.
So, I've separated the financials in my business now. So the staging side is separate
Mm,
from the design side.
smart.
So that when it comes time, for me to say, all right, am I going to renew my lease or am I going to maybe let the overhead side of the business go?
Yeah.
And can I sell that? I don't think people have had much luck selling staging businesses because you are actually the face of that business and it's hard to take that over.
Yeah.
You can
Unless you're at a
steer,
point where you've like removed yourself from being the face.
yeah,
Yeah. And you would have to plan for that for a while and really set up
you
the proper
do. You really
systems for it.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the one of the best exit strategies is to sell your inventory and sell, that part, that side of it. You
Hmm.
can sell your processes, but nobody can do what you specifically do. And that's the
Yeah.
hard thing about a staging business. So anyway, so we'll see
Even
if
your
that happens.
relationships and your contacts. I mean, it's not like any other I managed a salon and spa for a really long time, and it was a woman-owned business. She had started it when she was 18 and she retired when she was like 65 and she sold the business. And that, I mean, she was able, obviously, you're selling all the fixed assets, the employees, the client list.
Hmm.
But with staging and real estate, I don't even know how that would work selling your client list because really is a relationship game. So you'd have to be banking on the person that you're selling your business having the same relationships with your clients. Because otherwise, I'm sure they would find another stager that fits with them. And
Hmm.
because that's really what it's about.
It really is, and it's a
Yeah.
style thing.
Yeah.
And I've had people say to me, your style is so much different than so and so.
Right.
And that's not to say what's right or wrong.
No,
It's a
we all
difference
have
in
preferences.
style.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, that person will have their clients and I'll have mine. But I think that's true. I think it's really hard to do that.
Yeah.
So my future plan, I think, is just to take the design side,
Yeah.
and roll with that
You
after
could do
I'm
that
ready
from
to let
anywhere
go.
on the
Yes,
road. I'm assuming
exactly.
your husband hasn't retired yet.
No.
So
Mm-mm.
once he does, he'll probably be on you.
Well, and
After
you
a
know
little
what?
bit of me time for himself, he'll get bored because they all
It,
do.
exactly, exactly. Well, we're also having our first grandchild in another month. So
Congratulations.
thank you. So as our family grows, we'll have different interests also. But
Definitely.
yeah,
Well, I hope that you continue to submit awards. And I mean, you've got a really long list of finalists, and I'm sure we could see a couple more winners in there for you. I'd like to see like a best luxury vacant. That's what I have in my vision for you.
yes, I would like that too. I'll tell you,
You
the two times that I've won the categories, I have not been at RISA, and it's killing me. Like,
that
really?
what are the odds?
I know, I know.
That's
One was
bad
COVID
luck.
and one was when I was on vacation. So I'm like, All
Well,
right,
that
bacon's the
just
next one.
yeah, you just have to submit again and win again. So
There you go.
I
I'm
really
on it.
appreciate you spending your time with me. I know that you have somewhere else to be, so I'm not going to hold you up too much longer. I do want to just ask one more question, and that's going to be if you had three pieces of advice for somebody who is just starting off in staging, what would they be?
I guess probably the first thing would be to know your market.
Mm,
Because all of your buying decisions, all of your pricing, everything is going to depend on the market that you're in. So you
mhm.
can take a training course and they can set a standard of pricing, but if it's not conducive to your market, then that doesn't really help you, and you've got to get started on the right foot. Secondly, I would not dive in and buy a ton of inventory right away.
Yeah.
There are lots of ways to rent furniture, just do accessories. Get your feet wet before you really figure out how to buy inventory.
Mhm.
So those two things, and that's a two big ways to set yourself up financially in a position that's positive. Um, thirdly, find mentors. Find people that you can talk with on a regular basis, and you know, find out what they're willing to share and how to find success through them. We're
Definitely.
all seasoned stagers. There's so many of us here that are willing to share. We just had a recent meeting here at my new warehouse. Um,
Ooh, fun.
yeah, so it was fun, and there were so many new people, and I was there once, so you
Mhm.
want to you want to give it back. So there
Definitely.
are people out there that do that, and that would be my best advice for that.
And then one piece of advice for a seasoned stager, if you will. I hate the term seasoned. I'm gonna have to find another word for it. I'm like, you're not a piece of beef, but a seasoned stager. What advice
Yeah.
would you give them for finding work-life balance? And if that's something that you're still working on, how are you
Yes.
working on finding it for
That's
yourself?
I'm probably not a good one to ask because I mean, I will get up in the morning, get my coffee, get my computer,
Yeah,
and I will be here in the office until my husband is calling me saying, "What are we having for dinner?"
pretty much. Yep.
So I work a lot. But I do try to take weekends off.
Good.
So I play golf, and that's my time to play golf.
Good.
And so I try not to do anything on the weekends. So, you know, I
Hey, that's a start.
I I'm kind of that motto, like work hard, play hard.
Yeah,
Uh,
me too.
and so that's just the way I roll.
Yeah, some of us we just find joy in our work, and those that don't understand us is all I can say. But I hope you have a better time at finding work-life balance, because I do know as much as we love to work, sometimes you do need to take a little bit of time for yourself. And I'm glad you had a chance to do that, even though you didn't get to come with us to Vegas, that you got
I
to go to Greece
know.
with your husband. And um, I hope that we'll see you in Vegas next July.
Yeah,
Yeah.
next year. Yeah.
Tickets are on sale. So, anybody that's listening, if you haven't made it to RisaCon yet, get your tickets at risaconvention.com. There is a payment plan available, and we would love to see you and celebrate with you at the Home Staging Industry Awards show.
And of course you had Luann Nagara when I couldn't be there. I couldn't believe it. Like, really,
I
guys?
I have a feeling she'll be back. She was really really impressed and made a lot of friends. She loved it. I was so glad to talk to you, Leslie. It's been a
Yeah.
while, and you're like one of the first people that I met when I worked at Risa. So I always feel comfortable and happy to see your face, and I can't wait to see you again in real life and give you a big hug.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, I've really enjoyed the time too. And thank you for having me on your podcast. Yeah, that's very cool. And congratulations to you.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your story. If anybody wants to touch base with Leslie, if you're a stager out there, she is based out of DC. And like she said, she likes sharing and mentoring. So feel free to reach out to her. I will drop the link to her website and her Instagram in the comments. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, please like, share, and comment. And we'll look forward to the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye.